Have you ever sat by the window, hands folded quietly in your lap, and wondered, when did the distance between me and my children grow so wide? You remember the long nights spent cradling them through fevers, the school plays you never missed, the countless sacrifices you made without hesitation. You were their safe place, their home. And now, as time has passed, when you speak, your words are brushed aside. When you need a hand, they are suddenly too busy. When you offer wisdom, they roll their eyes as if you are out of touch. And perhaps the deepest cut of all, you feel invisible, like a familiar piece of furniture they pass by without noticing. If this feeling stirs something deep inside you, please know this: you are not alone and you are not powerless. There is a way back, not by demanding respect or pleading for attention, but by standing quietly, firmly, in the dignity that has always been yours. Today we're going to walk through the real, powerful steps you can take, not to change your children, but to change the energy between you by changing the way you honor yourself. And if at any moment while listening you feel even a small sense of hope, or if this message touches your heart, I invite you to comment one below to let us know you're still with us. It truly helps build a community of strength and understanding. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more support, encouragement, and wisdom tailored just for you. Now, let's begin, because reclaiming the respect you deserve starts right here, right now. Number 1. Trying too hard to please your adult children. Let's start with something that might feel uncomfortably familiar: trying too hard to please your children. Have you ever caught yourself saying yes when every part of you wanted to say no, just to keep the peace? Have you rearranged your day, canceled plans, or stretched yourself thin because you didn't want to seem difficult or disappointing to your children? Many loving parents fall into this pattern without realizing it. You think you're being helpful, being kind, being the parent they need. And maybe for a while, it feels like the right thing to do. But deep down, a quiet ache starts to grow, the ache of feeling unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. Perhaps you offered to babysit the grandkids even though you were exhausted. Perhaps you bit your tongue when they spoke sharply to you because you didn't want to seem dramatic. Perhaps you gave financial help you couldn't really afford, thinking maybe this time it would bring you closer. But here's something important, and it's not easy to hear. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Not because your children are cruel or ungrateful, but because human nature tends to value what stands strong, not what always yields. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was the heart of her family, a woman who gave everything to raise 3 children with love, stability, and care. But as the years passed, she started stepping aside more and more. She let them make decisions about her home, her finances, even her health care, just to keep the family together, she said. She thought she was building harmony. What her children saw, though, was someone who didn't need to be taken seriously anymore. And little by little, their respect began to slip away, not out of malice, but because she taught them, unintentionally, that her needs didn't matter. Respect doesn't come from endless sacrifice. It comes from self-respect. When you silence your voice to keep the peace, when you put yourself last over and over again, you teach the people around you that your time, your needs, your boundaries are optional. And they follow your lead. If this feels painfully familiar, take a deep breath and know that it's not too late. In fact, you can start right now. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to set limits. You are allowed to speak up when something doesn't feel right. And you don't need their permission to value your own time, energy, and well-being. Respect begins within you. The more you honor yourself, the more others will too. This doesn't mean becoming harsh or distant. It means standing tall in your truth with kindness but firmness. It means showing your children, without a single raised voice, that your presence is valuable, your voice matters, and your spirit cannot be overlooked. If you're still with me, and this is stirring something inside, comment 2 below to let us know you're here, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. We have more steps ahead, and the next one may just change everything. Now let's move on to another instinct that's natural but rarely works the way we hope: the urge to argue. Number 2, stop arguing. Start leading with calm strength. When someone we love speaks to us with disrespect, our natural instinct is to push back. You want to remind them of all the nights you stayed awake worrying for them, of all the sacrifices you made, of every moment you chose them over yourself. You want to say, "How dare you speak to me this way after everything I've done for you?" And truthfully, you will be justified. But the painful reality is, arguing almost never brings back respect. In fact, it often pushes it further away. Here's why. When you argue, when you plead, when you fight for recognition, you're still placing your emotional power in their hands. You're saying, "I need you to validate me before I can feel whole." But true strength, the kind that commands genuine respect, comes from within. It shows itself not through raised voices or emotional outbursts, but through quiet, unshakable calm. Let me introduce you to Frank. Frank was a retired teacher, the kind of man who commanded respect in his classroom for decades. His students adored him, hung onto his every word. Yet, strangely, when he retired and spent more time at home, his adult children barely listened to him. They interrupted him mid-sentence, mocked his opinions, and brushed off his advice as outdated. At first, Frank fought back. Every conversation became a battlefield. Every family dinner ended in raised voices and hurt feelings. And still nothing changed. Then one day, Frank decided he was done arguing. He didn't stop sharing his thoughts, but he did stop trying to win. He spoke calmly. He stopped defending himself. He stopped chasing after their approval. He simply lived his truth, steady, unshaken, and quietly confident. And something incredible happened. Over time, his children began to listen again, not because he yelled louder, not because he guilt them, but because his calm presence demanded respect without ever asking for it. You don't have to fight to be respected. You simply have to live as someone who knows their own worth. Let your calm become your strength. Let your peacefulness carry more power than any argument ever could. When you stop trying to force respect, you begin to inspire it. If you're still here and this message is resonating with you, comment 3 below. Your presence here matters more than you know. And if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe so you'll never miss new messages that lift you up and walk this journey with you. Now let's move forward because there's another powerful shift that can change everything: building emotional independence. Number 3, build emotional independence and inner fulfillment. One of the deepest, yet least talked about truths is this: you don't need your children to fulfill you emotionally. Of course, you love them with every fiber of your being. That love doesn't fade with time. But the more you depend on their attention, their praise, or their presence to feel valued, the more the dynamic quietly shifts, and not in your favor. Emotional dependence, even when it comes from a pure place of love, can unknowingly push people away. The parents who are respected most deeply by their children often have something quietly powerful in common. They build lives that are full, meaningful, and joyful, with or without constant contact from their family. Let me share the story of Laura. Laura was a vibrant woman in her late 60s. She had 3 grown children, each busy with their own lives. After her husband passed away, Laura poured everything into staying connected with her kids. She called every day. She sent long texts, worried over their problems, reminded them constantly how much she missed them. But instead of bringing them closer, it created distance. Her children started pulling away, not because they stopped loving her, but because her emotional world had become completely centered around them. The weight of that expectation, even unspoken, became too heavy. One afternoon, after a particularly lonely birthday where none of her children could visit, Laura made a decision. She joined a watercolor painting class she had always dreamed about. She started volunteering once a week at the local library. She met a group of women who loved hiking and tried her first beginner trail. Slowly, day by day, she began to build a life filled with laughter, adventure, and meaning without waiting for a phone call to feel complete. And something beautiful happened. Her children noticed. They started calling more, not out of guilt, but out of genuine curiosity and admiration. They wanted to hear about her hikes, her art projects, her new friendships. They began to see her not just as mom who waits by the phone, but as Laura, a strong, interesting, vibrant woman whose life was worth being part of. When you live fully, your light grows too bright to ignore. You stop chasing affection, and instead, you attract love naturally. Your children stop feeling like they have to check in out of duty and start wanting to connect out of real joy. If this idea touches your heart, comment for below. Your voice and journey matter here. And if you haven't yet, subscribe now to stay connected to a community that supports and celebrates your growth. Because next, we're going to talk about something that transforms relationships more than almost anything else: clear, loving boundaries. Number 4. Set clear and loving boundaries. One of the most profound shifts you can make, one that will ripple through every relationship you have, is learning to set clear, loving boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls. They aren't punishments. They are quiet lessons we teach others about how we deserve to be treated. And the truth is, many adult children cross lines not because they are cruel, but because they were never gently but firmly told where those lines were. If you've ever found yourself being interrupted, dismissed, talked down to, or overlooked, it's likely not because your children mean to hurt you. More often, it's because somewhere along the way, those behaviors were tolerated in the name of keeping peace. But silence, even when well-intentioned, can unintentionally teach others that disrespect is acceptable. Let me share the story of Charles. Charles was a 74-year-old retired engineer, sharp and kind-hearted, respected by colleagues throughout his long career. Yet at home, with his grown daughters, the tone was different. They would interrupt him, roll their eyes when he offered advice, sometimes even laugh gently at his outdated ways. At first, Charles said nothing. He told himself, "They're busy. They're stressed. It's not worth making a scene." But inside, every small slight chipped away at him. And the more he stayed silent, the more it happened. Then came a Thanksgiving dinner that changed everything. One of his daughters openly mocked a story he was sharing, dismissing him in front of the whole family. This time, Charles didn't get angry. He didn't raise his voice. He simply paused, looked her gently in the eyes, and said, "I love being part of these moments with you. But I expect to be treated with the same respect I give you. If that's not possible, I'll need to step away from conversations that feel hurtful." The room grew silent, not because he had scolded them, but because he had spoken with calm certainty. From that day forward, the tone changed. His daughters became more mindful. They listened longer. They spoke with more care. Not because they were afraid, but because they finally understood his presence was not to be taken for granted. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about respecting yourself. They are the invisible fences that protect your dignity, and when you hold them gently but firmly, others rise to meet the standard you set. If you're still here and this idea resonates with you, comment 5 below to let us know. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to continue walking this journey with a community that believes in your strength, your worth, and your right to be treated with honor. Now, let's talk about another habit that often sneaks up on loving parents: the habit of giving too much for too little appreciation. Number 5. Stop giving without appreciation. There's a habit many parents carry deep into their older years, often without realizing the heavy toll it takes: the habit of giving endlessly, even when appreciation fades. Maybe you've done it too. Offering help without being asked. Dropping everything to babysit, to loan money, to listen for hours, because that's what love does, right? Because that's what parents do. And even when the gratitude grows quieter or disappears altogether, you tell yourself it doesn't matter. You're just doing what's right. But over time, a quiet, painful truth begins to set in. Giving without boundaries doesn't make people love you more. It often makes them value your generosity less. Let me tell you about Evelyn. Evelyn was a 71-year-old retired nurse who'd spent her entire life helping others. It was second nature to her. So when her 3 grown sons needed help, moving apartments, fixing cars, watching grandchildren, she was the first one there every time, without hesitation. She rearranged her own doctor appointments, canceled her social outings, and even dipped into her savings to cover unexpected bills. But then, when Evelyn herself needed help recovering from small surgery, none of her sons could make the time. One was too busy with work, another already had plans, and the third didn't think it was that serious. That moment shattered something inside Evelyn. For the first time, she saw clearly her endless giving had been expected, not cherished. And instead of becoming bitter, Evelyn became clear. She decided that from now on, she would give when it was needed, not simply out of habit. She would help when she truly wanted to, not because she felt obligated. She would say yes with joy or say no with peace. The next time her son asked her to babysit last minute, she smiled and said, "I'd love to help another day, but tomorrow I have plans with friends." At first, there was surprise, even some disappointment. But over time, something shifted. Her sons began saying thank you more often. They began asking, not assuming. They began to see her time and presence as a gift, not a guarantee. The truth is, when you step back just enough to let others feel the weight of your absence, they begin to appreciate your presence more deeply. You don't have to stop being kind. You simply need to be kind to yourself first. If you're still here and this resonates with you, comment 6 below. Your journey deserves to be honored. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to stay connected to a community that believes in the strength, wisdom, and dignity of your life experience. Now, before we close, there's one more important truth we must reflect on. A truth that may just be the key to rebuilding not only respect, but deep, lasting connection. Building a full life outside of being a parent. Number 6. Build a full life beyond parenthood. There's a belief many parents carry quietly in their hearts, often without even realizing it. Once the children are grown and settled, then I'll start living for myself. Maybe you've told yourself that too. Maybe for decades your dreams, hobbies, friendships, even your health, have been gently placed on hold because raising a family felt more important. And for many years it was. But now, in this season of life, there's a powerful, healing truth you deserve to embrace. You are not just a parent. You are a person with your own dreams, passions, and future. When your children were small, they needed you for everything. But now, they need something different. They need to see you living fully, not waiting by the phone, not shrinking into the background, but shining in your own life. Because when they see you happy, engaged, and alive, something changes deep within them. They don't just love you, they admire you. Let me tell you about Harold. Harold was a widower in his early 70s, a man who had spent his whole life providing for his 2 sons. After his wife passed, Harold found himself sitting alone in his home day after day, hoping the boys would call, hoping they would visit, hoping to feel needed again. And while they loved him, they were busy with their own lives. Weeks would pass with barely a word. The loneliness felt suffocating. One day, Harold saw an ad in the local paper for a beginner's photography class. On a whim, he signed up. That one small decision changed everything. Through that class, Harold rediscovered joy. He began taking nature walks, capturing sunsets, joining community exhibits. His world expanded far beyond the walls of his house, and so did his spirit. And his sons noticed. They called more. They visited more. They wanted to hear about his photos, attend his exhibits, share in his excitement. They no longer saw him as the lonely, waiting father. They saw him as Harold again, a man with light in his eyes and stories to tell. When you stop living only through your children, you teach them something powerful, that life doesn't end when they grow up. It transforms. And that transformation invites deeper respect, deeper connection, and yes, deeper love. If this message stirs something inside you, comment 7 below. Your voice is part of this beautiful journey we're walking together. And please, if you haven't yet, subscribe to stay connected with a community that lifts you up and reminds you that your story matters, now more than ever. As you begin to shift how you stand in the world, not with louder words, not with tighter grips, but with quiet, steady self-respect, you may start to notice something powerful. The tension begins to ease. The ache in your chest softens. You no longer find yourself walking on eggshells, hoping for scraps of attention. You stand a little taller. You breathe a little deeper. You realize that respect isn't something you demand. It's something you naturally inspire by the way you carry yourself. And even if, at first, your children don't respond the way you hope, please don't lose heart. Change can feel uncomfortable, not just for you, but for them too. They've grown used to the version of you that always said yes, always gave in, always put your needs second. When you start honoring yourself, it may feel unfamiliar to them. But it's in that unfamiliarity that new respect is born. You can love your children deeply and still expect to be spoken to kindly. You can care for your family with all your heart and still say, "I deserve to be treated with dignity." You can offer help with open hands and still choose when and how you give without guilt. This is not harshness. This is not punishment. This is the foundation of healthy, mature, lasting relationships, the kind built on mutual honor, not silent sacrifice. And often, something beautiful happens along the way. As you live more fully, as you nurture your own passions, reclaim your voice, and gently but firmly protect your peace, your children start to see you differently. Not as someone waiting in the background, but as someone standing in their full light. They call a little more often. They listen a little more closely. They speak a little more gently. And they don't do it out of guilt or obligation. They do it because they see the strength in you, and strength draws people closer. But even if they don't see it right away, know this: you are worthy of respect. Not because of what you have given, not because of what you can still offer, but simply because you are you, alive, wise, resilient, and still growing. If you felt that quiet ache of being overlooked or underappreciated, I want you to hear these words in your heart. You deserve better. Not someday, not when they realize it, but now, right now. And if you're still with me, I want to thank you not just for watching, but for having the courage to reflect, to hope, to believe that a richer, stronger, more respected chapter of your life is possible. It is. I would love to hear your story. Have you experienced moments where your children forgot the respect you deserved? Have you tried setting new boundaries? Have you started living more fully for yourself? Leave a comment below, even just a few words. Your voice matters here. Your experience could be the light someone else needs to find their way. And if this message has helped you, even in a small way, please give this video a thumbs up. It truly helps others find messages of strength and healing. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that little bell icon so you'll always know when we post new videos to walk this journey with you. You are never too old to reclaim your voice. You are never too far gone to rebuild the respect you deserve. And you are never, ever alone. Until next time, take care, and remember, living with quiet dignity is the most powerful message you will ever send.